Good evening, everyone. Welcome here. We are in Sonoma. We are in the USA, and we are here for the GSI MX5 competition. Here, as I said, in the beautiful racetrack located in the middle of the vineyards. As I said, in USA. But this track has a great history in itself, but it's also a great racetrack. In its complexity. It is located in California. We are in the middle of the vineyards. As a matter of fact, here they produce, actually, to my surprise, some very important vines and wines. But obviously the track is more famous for something else, and that is the NASCAR Cup Series and the Xfinity Series that take place here. In the middle of the desert usually, but also the GT World Challenge America takes place, the Trans Am Series, the Ferrari Challenge in North America, and also you can see the drag strip in the middle of the way. That is because there is the NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing Series, but also it held various different series, one of which was the Moto America or the Camping World when it was still the Camping World Track Series. In any case, this racetrack has two configurations, one being used in the NASCAR and Xfinity Series, and the one being used by everyone else practically. The Sonoma Raceway is 12 turns long, otherwise it's still 12 because the whole part in the middle is still counted, but effectively there is the cut from 4A to 7, and that effectively cuts the circuit by about 3 turns. But quite a long track for the full circuit, 4 kilometers long, 12 turns, and certainly this will give a lot of action for our little Miatas. In the standings, let me see if I can bring this up. In the meantime, let me also, for every time I have to basically go on to fight with OBS. Okay, it should work. We go into the standings. These are, this is the course. Oh, matter of fact, the image is a bit. Can you? No, I wanted the image. Okay, apparently I cannot. Okay, thank you very much. In the standings, we've got Eduardo Cavalli that leads the way, more than 6,000 points for the Brazilian driver. And then following behind it is Jack Black and Riley Gallardo. That at this point, the fight is starting to become more and more towards the Brazilian, with Takayuki Kubo and Adam Galaxy that complete the top 5. These are the complete standings of the MX5 Cup, brought to you by GSI. And obviously, it's important to say also why they are fighting for this championship. This is the reason. This is the calendar. Okay, these are the pro prizes. As you can see here, the MX5 Pro Series by GSI gives the podium sitters 3 different wheels. One, it is an FPA V2 for the winner of the championship. Then we've got a GXL V2 for whoever arrives in second, and an Interlock Ultra for the third placed driver. And these are the full prices for every other series. As always, let's give a bit of a shout to everyone else that participates in the various Assetto Corsa series. And in the meantime that I get into the lobby, this is the calendar. As always, it's going to be a bit complicated, mainly because I've got to let me just be sure that everything works, and need content manager for a second. Where are you? Here it is. Probably. Aha, found it. Okay, now I can... okay. No. Okay. Now I should be able to join the session. I just had to get rid of a thing that was always in the middle of the way, which was the ping on the upper right corner, I'll be honest. Okay, now it works, probably. Every time it is a bit of a mess, considering I can't really join on the free practice. I have to join afterwards, but also the pre-race and pre-qualifying show takes a bit. Please tell me everything works. Okay, the answer is yes, it is working. So let me go into OBS and we go into live. And yes, okay, everything is working. Fantastic stuff. As you can see, 5 minutes to go into the qualifying session. And just a handful of drivers set a time already in the 10 minutes or so qualifying session. As we got Kirillov for now leading in front of Stopka and Frankie, with Zalewski in fourth, Yiker, Alexander, then Kuto, but still these are the very first laps. Cavalli sets the fastest time at the moment. For all of them it is the very first lap and the only one that they've provided. Gallardo for now second, Villa follows behind, but 2 minutes for an outlap, another 2 minutes for an effective lap, and now we are effectively in the middle of the qualifying session. It's a very short one compared to what the track offers. Only 3 or 4 laps available for them in the 4 kilometers long race track, and that was Manu Villa going sideways and effectively, I think, going to the barrier. With Okubo that is just 99 milliseconds behind, but again, it was the very first lap. I don't really expect. I can't. Why can't I say expect? Okay, expect an improvement for everyone involved in the session. As you can see, the first 3 drivers already have a good gap to whoever follows. Henderson in 4th is 3.5 times behind Gallardo, and that gap is lower than the one between Gallardo and Cavalli, with Okubo in the middle. As Cavalli is definitely hitting the tires up, so this one will not be an improvement for him. Okubo, on the other hand, could be able to afford an improvement, and that could send him into P1. Although realistically, anything can happen. And that was in fact an improvement for Okubo. 44.1 for the Japanese driver in front of Black 2. And Cavalli, obviously, but he didn't really submit an improvement on his lap time. Still with a 44.3. Okubo, as I said, improved the lap time, 44.1. And for now, he is on pole position. Gallardo follows 3 times behind Okubo. And then Barale is now between the 2 Americans, with the Italian in the car number 72. That is 7 times behind Anderson, and then Villa, Aldosari. Even behind the 1 second marker. The field is pretty spread up this time around. The Galaxy still without a lap time, and in the standing still in the middle of the safety cars, as there are a couple of graphical glitches. I will not question them. 1 minute and 26 on the clock, so whoever crosses the line from now on will be on their final flying lap. And this effectively puts everyone in a bit of a danger zone, and that is Cavalli that was about to... I thought he was going into the pits. I thought he was going into the pit. This camera is awful. Okay, this is a bit better. As Cavalli goes across the line for his final lap. The next one. And without an improvement. Without an improvement for Cavalli, he remains in third. As I can see, Galaxy jumping into 6th place. The Canadian is now 6th. Short, actually, a bit less than 8 times for him. Oh, there is a car spun out. That is the car number 07, but I don't know which one it is. It could be Mueller. Okay, I was lucky. It was Mueller, effectively. In 23rd place at the moment. Black still has to improve too. And for now, Okubo is definitely on point. The number 77. The last time around, it was very close between Okubo and the top two being composed of both Black and Gallardo. As Anderson jumps back into 6th and sets the very same lap time as Barale in front of him, 44.878. As Kirillov also sets himself into 7th place. So there could be a very heavy fight here for 5th, but ultimately I think the top 4 has an immense gap to the cars behind. I think, looking at the minimap, that Okubo's lap time may be an invalid one, as you can see on the minimap, but I don't really trust it, mainly because I'm in the broadcast, so some things may be wrong. Zalewski improved his position, he's now in 15th. But I will stay with Black for now because he is in 2nd. In front of him, his teammate, Riley Gallardo, as Cavalli jumps into pole position, 43.902. And Gallardo will cross the line before Black. And Riley Gallardo as close as possible to the wall, across the line, 3rd place. Which remains 3rd, his teammate wasn't able to improve and remained 4th, so Okubo will start on the front row, regardless of an improvement or not. As also, I saw another car jumping, I think it was Aldosari, in 10th. As a few other cars go across the line. But it wasn't an improvement for Okubo either. And also I think it was an off lap for... Oh, okay, that was... How did he do it? I didn't expect it. That took me off guard. Okay. Jumped everything. I don't know why I'm laughing. It was just fun in my eyes. Anyway, let's have a look at the results from the last race. It was Jake Black and Riley Gallardo completing the Phillip Island round in front of Koa, Galaxy and Frankie, with a mess and a half for Kirillov and Okubo that effectively crashed in 2 different occasions. To ultimately ruin each other's race, but both times it was a bit of an energetic move from the Japanese driver that put the Bulgarian in Kirillov in a bit of a difficult situation every single time. And let's go into live. This is the grid for tonight's round in Sonoma. Edoardo Cavalli 2 times ahead of Okubo, Gallardo 3rd with Black in 4th, Anderson in 5th, and then Barale, Kirillov, Galaxy, Villa and Aldosari completing your top 10. A second between Kirillov in 7th and Cavalli in 1st, with effectively the top 4 that already created a gap to everyone following. Realistically, we could witness a very good fight in the middle of the pack, especially for 5th place, as for yeah, for 5th place. Anderson is first for some reason. As we are close to start the race. In fact, the grid is off. 10 seconds to go until the green light. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's green light, and away we go. It was a beautiful start, way too much beautiful. In fact, it was a drive-through for jumping the start for Takayuki Okubo. Disaster of a race already for the Japanese driver that will have to go through the pits one time to effectively count his penalty for a jump start. And Gallardo jumped into second in front of the Japanese that effectively is out of the race already, at least for the win. Kirov was wide into turn number 4 and into the grass a tiny bit, and he gets overtaken by Galaxy and maybe even Villa behind. No, it doesn't happen there. Although the two cars with Galaxy on the inside that then becomes the outside can't really provide an answer to Krilov's attack. So Krylov remains in 7th, Anderson remains in 5th, and Barale follows behind. Black 3rd place, Gallardo 2nd, and Cavalli 1st. As I said, tremendous stuff, because now Kubo has to go through the pits. Penalty for jumping the start, and he was the only one to do so. And then behind it was O'Reilly, very wide into the hairpin, but it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. Kieran O'Reilly. It's just behind Oyek, Zalewski, and GSI Albert are battling for position. It is free wide into the hairpin with Casero in the middle. They can't go free wide there in the final hairpin. As a matter of fact, it was Zalewski having the better fate out of the free, with Casero that actually lost the place for a brief moment to Machas, but ultimately GSI Albert is still alongside Zalewski, and the orange and black car will be the one ahead of the two that are still fighting behind him. And Zalewski remains in 16th with 87. That is battling with car number 62. And Kosterin completes the battle there. Barale goes in 5th. That was a mistake by Anderson, I think, because I saw some grass being picked up. And Krylov is also trying a move on the inside. That could be a jump for Krylov. As a matter of fact, it is Krylov's place, the number 6. Although Anderson goes back in front with a lunge into the inside at the hairpin. That doesn't really give any position to him as he drops back into 7th. Galaxy behind is very keen on probably making a move. Let's go on board to see what the American driver in his home soil can deliver. I suppose we could see something happen into the hairpin, enter inside. Oh, there is a lunge, a massive lunge. Oh, free wide into the hairpin. And that was an incident between, I think, Villa going for a bit of an extreme move and crashing with a couple of drivers in its path. And Krylov is now in 5th, Anderson is 6th, Galaxy 7th, and Aldozari jumped ahead of Villa. But he is on the outside in car number 55 and can't really do anything. Actually loses one place for a moment as ahead of them. There is also a battle between Anderson and Galaxy. Anderson that tries to defend and succeeds in doing so. Aldozari actually lost 2 places after overtaking Villa. So now Villa in stop car in front of the Polish driver and also Frankie and probably even Suarez. So now it is 12 for Aldozari. As really is also very keen on making a move, and that is still 13th for O'Reilly that doesn't jump the car ahead. In the meantime, also Galaxy managed to get 6th place. And Anderson has to stay behind Stropka and Frankie. Battle for 9th place here. With a Maltese driver that is narrowly ahead of the pink and purple MX5 with Oliver Stopka driving. Can he throw the car into the final hairpin? He doesn't do so, as also Villa managed to overtake Colin Anderson just behind. That was Suarez maybe thinking about a move. But it didn't really go through. So now go into turn 3. And 3A, for some reasons 3 and 3A are two different corners, but they have the same number. As Casero here overtakes Zalewski for position number 15. Frankie and Stopka still one after the other. Can an overtake happen into turn 7? And the pink and purple one goes for a different line, but it doesn't mean any overtake. And Romain Frankie manages to remain in position number 9. Although, you can also see that Anderson was quite slow in the last lap. 47.3 for the American. Frankie, 46.7. Although it was Stopka that lost the most time. With a 47.6. And they can't really get through. He is still trying something different. In the meantime, also here, Black barely behind Gallardo. And maybe not anymore, as the car number 34 tries an overtake. On the outside he goes, and that was the position for the car number 34. Jake Black is now in second place, trying to chase Eduardo Cavalli in the car number 1 in the statistics, but effectively it is a 777 in the livery. Last lap it was a 44.3 for Cavalli, Black 44.4, Gallardo 44.6. It's quite clear that Black has been led through by his teammate. Maybe to get Cavalli's place, who knows. Barale follows another 3.3 seconds behind. Krylov a 2.4, Galaxy same gap, Villa 2.1, 0.8 seconds for Anderson, Frankie then Stopka, completing your top 10. As Aldosari on board for us. As Camille Aldosari doesn't really try an offensive, but that was Suarez going very wide. And Suarez going very wide means an opening for the car number 55 that gets pricked the second. The blue and white 55 car tried to make an assault on the position. In the meantime, Okubo managed to get Zalewski's position. Now it is 16th place for the Japanese driver that was starting in second. Remember, jump start for him. And that is an overtake for the 55, with I think also a bumper run, as Suarez lost not 1 but 2 places. And Jesse Albert managed to... apologies, that's Kieran really managed to get in front of Suarez. I think it was a bumper run between Aldosari and Suarez. Oh, really, that's innocently, but opportunistically. Oh, there is another incident, and the 55 is off. This time it was a bumper run, but between Aldosari and really and Suarez, karma strikes, and he gets back not only his own place, but also Aldosari lost way more than a position only. He is also behind GSI Albert, that is now trying on outside. Could it be jackpot for Albert? As he could gain 2 places in just a handful of corners. Although from the outside, that is incredible from Kieran O'Reilly. Onto number 6. It was an astonishing overtake. On the outside he goes, and he completes the overtake on the first possible opportunity. As this 70 goes very much wide. Luis Suarez, the Portuguese, left quite open window. And it was practically an open net goal for GSI Albert that jumped into 12th. Aldosari couldn't still be in contention for position with his rival. Although Suarez, let's have a look at what happens here for the number 70. In front of him, GSI Albert. And O'Reilly in the 24 defends the inside line. A free wide is a bit difficult here, but that is O'Reilly that manages to defend the contact between Albert and Suarez. And that contact slowed down a bit the Portuguese driver that may lose the position. In the meantime, it is a 24 that has to defend. It doesn't defend. He actually loses the position on GSI Albert. This is now in 11th place. And now Okubo is part of the fight. He overtook Aldosari in the prior corner. And next target, the next target is Luis Suarez in the number 70. So really, is behind Albert. As I said at the very beginning, it was certainly going to be a battle in the mid-pack, and we got it. As Albert is trying to defend against O'Reilly, and Okubo behind, which is now alongside him. We'll probably try a different approach on the outside. He lunges the car on the outside, goes for one move, maybe even 2. There was a chance for that, but I'm not sure. Okay, no, never mind. He actually goes for 2 places. Not in 1 corner, but in 2. But regardless, it is 11th place for Takayuki Okubo, moving GSI Albert in 12th, and Kieran O'Reilly in 14th. Aldosari follows, and then Suarez in the 70 lost a place on Aldosari. Casero is now back in the fighting. The 87 could put more pressure on Suarez that doesn't defend the inside line at the very last hairpin into turn 11, and a matter of fact, it is 87 that jumps into 15th, making it another move for the Spanish driver, and the Portuguese loses another one. Villa is getting closer and closer to Galaxy. La prior, it was an overtake between Villa and Anderson, but it was a very quick one, while the battle for position number 11 at the time was inbound. Anderson has been quite slow compared to his qualifying pace, and here in 2nd and 3rd the script is always the same. The 2 teammates, one after the other. But it's quite clear that Black isn't able to cut the gap to Cavalli. If anything, the gap is extending. It is now 2 seconds, as you can see on the tower. Let's see if Villa... Oh yeah, Villa in the 71 is definitely closer to Galaxy. Last lap it was a 5.0 for Villa, Galaxy 5.5. An entire half a second being gained in 4 kilometers only. And there's also the possible battle for 4th, as Barale and Kirillov are getting closer with each other, although it is Kirillov putting pressure on the Italian driver. 5.0 in the last lap, 4.7 for Kirillov, as Cavalli just set the quickest lap of the race so far, 44.213, with a 44.5 for Black and 44.2 for Gallardo. 5.0 for Barale and Kirillov, 4.7 again, basically the same lap as earlier. So another 3 times being taken off the gap here. GSI Albert tries again on the 24, and he goes through, although there was a bit of a slight oversteer reaction there, and that is really going back into 11th place, into 12, apologies. And the 24 slots himself back into 12 with Albert that has to both attack and defend at the same time. As Aldozari, for a reaction movement, had to avoid Albert by throwing himself into the grass, losing some time. But I don't think he collected damage on the maneuver. So ultimately, it remains like this. Although really goes for another lunge. The usual lunge into turn 7. But this time it was Albert having the better fate out of the two. Maybe not, maybe yes, maybe not. They're still alongside. One next to the other. As Aurelio goes the long way around. The long way around to get back to position. Number 12. Saldazari is also back in contention. But for 4th place, that was Baral and Kirillov. One next to the other. But the overtake was put forward by the Bulgarian driver. There was clearly an attempt, but not an effective overtake. Meanwhile, here Aureli overtakes once again the 111, GSI Albert, and once more it is 12th place here in contention with the 24 and Albert. We really that loses this time the position on Albert, and really either has to answer back. Oh, that's Casero going for the move on Aldozari's place, 14th for the Spanish driver, and this actually gives an opportunity to Suarez. But back here, it is incredible, this battle here, as the Tiger livery enter inside the fence. Albert for now remains in 12th, or really 13th. Casero all of a sudden finds himself in 14th, although it is a free wide on the drag strip. On the drag strip, well, not really on the drag strip, but in the back straight to the drag strip, and that's Casero in the grass. Casero in the grass, and Suarez too. So there was an incident between Suarez and Casero, with Aldozari also involved, and Zalewski is now 14th. Incredible stuff. As the Brazilian finds himself 14th, jumping 3 cars in a single move. Unfortunately, I was focused on what was happening here between Albert and really. And at the same time, it was also the overtake between Barala and Kirillov, with Kirillov that managed to get into 4th. Especially in 2nd place is still crystallized, although I could see Gallardo getting closer and closer to his teammate. I think at this point they are battling for position. Last lap it was a 4.7 for Black, a 4.5 for Gallardo. As Cavalli increased the gap to 3.4 seconds. I think something could happen in the hairpin into turn 11. The little gap has been created between Black and Gallardo, and the 44 remains where it is. Here, Kirillov still ahead of Barale. And looking at lap times, it could remain like this for a good while. Suarez lost a position on Costin in 2. The car is heavily damaged, as you can see here. And Lozari is also with a lot of damage on the car. So it's clear that there was an incident between Lozari and Suarez, and probably even Casero. I count him too. Suarez tries the outside maneuver on Costrin to at least get back into 17th. But 17 doesn't really have the speed anymore with a battered car. As the position number 12 is still in discussions, or really behind Albert. As the 24 could try an attack on Jesse Albert. But once again, these two are providing a great show. In the meantime, there's also here the overtake. As Takayuki Okubo plans the maneuver in advance, and by the end of turn number 2, Okubo is already ahead of Stopka. Behind, it is Machas overtaking Suarez for 18th. Suarez is really trying his best. The car is not really helping. I will try to see what happened in the replay, if I've got the chance to do so. But obviously that will be seen at the end of the race. So stick until then to see exactly what happened in the incident among the 3 drivers. As Luis Suarez is still in contention, but at the same time not really. Mainly because of the situation with his car. The 62 now goes alongside Kosterin. And the 62 effectively jumps to the 57, but this also puts the 70 back into 17th place. So ultimately the 62 didn't gain any place, and Kosterin lost 2. As Aldosari also sends the car on the outside, and the 55. Now Aldosari is 14th, and that is a pit stop. Disaster for Jesse Albert. Pit stop for Jesse Albert. The American driver is in the pits. I'm not sure why, but he is in the pits, and so he lost the place he was in. Disaster for the 111. Not sure the reason for it, but he is back in 19th. Disaster for Albert. He's on track 2. I suppose it was because of fuel. If not for the drive-thru at the start, Kubo could have made this interesting. Yes, definitely. As you could argue that now Kubo has made it interesting in another way, as in making a comeback from where he was, about 17th after the drive-thru. The only good news is that the drive-thru here with these cars is slightly less harmful than with a different class of cars, as Black is still ahead of Gallardo. Not for long, maybe. 4.9 for both drivers, although this time around it was Jack Black going a bit into oversteer mode. Remember, these two are teammates. At the same time, they are battling for podium prizes. But they have the same pace, so it is an effective intra-team battle. At the moment, let's go back into 6th place, because Galaxy has been bleeding gap for the last 5 laps or so. But Villa wasn't able to make an overtake for this whole time, setting Anderson back into contention for position. 44.9 at the last lap. It was a 5.2 for Villa and 5.1 for Galaxy, as you can see on the tower. Anderson was starting in 5th, lost a bunch of places instantaneously, and then set himself for 8th. Although in the last laps, as I said earlier, the gap has been cut, and we could see Anderson back in contention for even 6th. Okay, I can't count anymore. Even 6th. Starting to see if there was a possible switch between Black and Gallardo, but that didn't happen. At the same time, Okubo is now only 8 tenths behind Frankie. So ultimately, we could see Okubo at the very least in 6th. But I will chip in and I'll say I expect 4th. From Takayuki. I'm not really joking. I expect a 4th place. It is possible for me, for the Japanese driver, to effectively do a miracle. It's very unfortunate because if not for the drive-thru, it could have battled for the win. It definitely could have battled for the win. But you can't win races on if and whatnot. You have to race with what you've got. In this case, it was a drive-thru for Kubo, who is now in the top 10. And drive-thru for cutting. Michael Kosterin. So another drive-thru has been issued. This time for the number 57 in 18th place. Back here, let's go on board with Takayuki Kubo, that has a VIP seat for the battle for 6th. 5.0 in the last lap for Galaxy. It was the best personal lap for the Canadian, and 44.9, so best personal lap for Romain Frankie, although a bit of bump draft there. And that's Takayuki Kubo going into the inside and into turn 11, with also Frankie helping a bit. And the Japanese understanding that was a switch, and that's a DNF. Jesse Albert will not complete the race, unfortunately. Whatever blunder happened to bring him into the pit lane earlier on certainly set his race ablaze, and he was battling for 12th. Effectively providing a show for all of us. Yeah, but now he has to pass drivers, not actors. I mean, the pace is still huge for Okubo. 44.4 at the last lap compared to 45.3 for Anderson and Villa 5.1. So realistically, I can see Okubo just passing through without any real difficulty. We already saw it just half a lap ago with Frankie. Anderson and Villa could also help Okubo's pace and rhythm. Let's see how it goes. Okubo clearly has a quick car. And very likely he will send the overtake into the very same hairpin as earlier. And that's also the number 55 that helps a tiny bit. And now Kubo is in 8th. Best personal lap for Adam Galaxy, 44.995. 45.008 for Villa, and Okubo set his personal best lap time, 44.3 at the last reading, although Cavalli's lap time was a 44.0, so Cavalli remains on a different level compared to the field, to the entirety of it. Matter of fact, now the gap between Black and Cavalli is 6.5 seconds, with Gallardo that's also set at 44.1 at the last lap, so maybe the battle for second is still not over. Tak has been very fast here all week. Shame he got the penalty, definitely. I still believe in a possible fourth, although probably unrealistic, but it doesn't really take much for that 4 seconds gap to become 2, for example. Krylov and Barale are getting very, very close. And a battle between the two could bunch up the field. And actually, I think the battle between the two may happen just now. The 72 has been quite quick in the last couple of laps, especially. Krylov for now remains ahead. Barale follows. And Okubo jumps another car on the very same hairpin as always. And the 77 is now in 7th place. Next on bound, Adam Galaxy. A second in front. Last time it was a 45.1 for Galaxy. Okubo set a 44.3. So it's quite clear that Okubo will reach Galaxy. And I said it earlier. Maybe 4th is not impossible for Okubo. Call ambulance for Adam. Someone put wings on Taka. He's gonna take off. He's definitely flying. I mean, looking at the lap times, he has been even quicker than Black and Gallardo. And Okubo has been also in the middle of the traffic for this whole time. The only car that was quicker every single... No, not every single lap, but the majority of them was Edoardo Cavalli, who at this point just wins by absolute amount of seconds every round. And I think it will be the very same script for this evening, with Edoardo Cavalli in 777 Racing School. That will be able to clinch the win in Sonoma. Gallardo is on track, still behind Black. But maybe not for long. 44.4 at the last lap for Black. Gallardo set an effective 44.3. If not for that single milliseconds. That single millisecond that kind of ruins my life. Why it is 299 and not 300? Anyway, best personal lap for Krylov. So it is clear that the Bulgarian saw what was happening in the mirrors and said, maybe not. Maybe we'll just extend the space between me and my rival. And now Barale is a second behind Krylov. Galaxy, another sort of 4 seconds behind, and quite close. Takayuki Kubo just waits for the occasion that clearly arises now, with Galaxy helping the Japanese. Now Kubo is in 6th. And has very little time to make 4 seconds back. In the meantime, Black here The number 44, trying to defend against Gallardo. It is quite clear that Black is actually racing his teammate. He was already in the fence into the final hairpin. So the positions are not crystallized. As much as also tries an overtake on the car number 70, and that's Suarez losing the position number 16. Although Machas answers back, and Johan Machas still remains in 16th. We are in Sonoma. We are in the 4 kilometers long racetrack located in the middle of California's vineyards. And we are just 5 minutes away from the end of the race. And quite honestly, this has been a very eventful race. Sonoma. Why? Why? I hate having the eyesight sometimes. Machas here. Still defending to at least keep 16th for himself. But here, only a 10th now too. Keeping Gallardo away from Black. And once again, very defensive line into turn 11. That doesn't really give the 22 behind any real opportunity. And so we go for another lap. But this time, it was Gallardo having a way better exit out of turn 12. And the 44 is on the outside, closing the door instantly as soon as his teammate arrived at the footsteps. But once again, it is Black remaining in position number 2. Gallardo follows in third. He has to move on because the time on the clock is ticking and is running out. Speaking of which, Anderson is still battling with Villa for 8th. Bit of a not so great TM race for Colin Anderson, starting in 5th, losing positions practically since the very start of the race. And now even Frankie could become a danger, because Frankie's car has been getting bigger and bigger. And now only 3 temps are separating Anderson and Frankie, with a Maltese that could try an attack on Anderson. But for now, Romain Frankie remains in 10th place, out the outskirts of the top 10, but still in it. Suarez also gained the position on Machas, that clearly made a mistake. As another car in front actually made a mistake. Oh, that's Michael Kostorin on the grass. So let's search for it. For a brief moment I saw Gallardo and Black switching places. It was just the tower syncing up. And I'm quite sure it was the last lap. Okay, this is the last lap effectively. So it was the white flag being taken by Edoardo Cavalli. So in a minute we will define the podium. Just there's a handful of corners remaining for Gallardo to try and overtake. Cavalli at this point is on another zip code, while these two are still deciding on who has to step on the second highest spot on the podium. For now, Black defends every single corner. The lap times obviously completely ruined for both of them. I'm trying to see what happens at the same time for Cavalli crossing the line and between Black and Gallardo. But realistically, this could be the very final attempt for Gallardo that doesn't go through. As Cavalli actually managed to cross the line just in time. No, it was a finish line, so Cavalli wins the race just seconds after the checkered flag waved, and it was Black crossing the line in second with Gallardo, his teammate, in third, Kirillov fourth, Barale fifth, Okubo sixth place. I was a bit thinking over the sky there. Villa, then Frankie behind Anderson. Stopka 11, Faldosari in 12th place. Really managed to get home with 13th place. As Casero, last attempt for an overtake, as Zalewski remains in position number 14, Casero 15th, Machas 16th, goes home in front of Suarez, then 10, the British driver 18th, Müller with a bit of a destroyed car at the very least, that's what I can see there. 19th, Sasanovic concludes the race in 20th, behind Denny Müller, and then Ralph, no, that's Jan Müller in 22nd, Alexander in 23rd, and should be Koster in 24th. Okay, the grid is completely useless in this moment. And then it should be Koster, Kuto, Yiker, and Jesse Albert, unfortunately, last. Can I see what happened? Yes, I can. So I want to see back what happened here. I want to see the incident that brought the chain, but I think, yeah, the replay doesn't really go that far behind, unfortunately. That was always a racing, yeah, that was definitely an always a race. Unfortunately, I can't really show you the incident that happened in the middle of the race. But ultimately, this was a great race in the GSI Mazda MX5 Pro Series. So yeah, that's the lobby closing down. So this means I can also jump into the slides for the post-race. It was a wonderful race to be seen, this one here. The MX-5s always deliver, that's for certain. And next time around, it is also Norris Ring, which, if you follow DTM, you know that Norris Ring is definitely a one to watch, because Norris Ring always delivers action, whichever the race, the series that takes place. Norris Ring is always a must watch. Server is gone, so this means I can just exit from the content manager. Okay. And as I said earlier, as I said like an hour or so ago, there is a reason there is a championship ongoing, and there is a reason why GSI is a proud partner of it, and it's because these are the prices for the top 3 in the championship. Whoever arrives in P1 receives an FPA V2 wheel from GSI, GXL V2 for whoever goes home with a silver medal, and on the lower spot on the podium, an Interlock Ultra for third place holder. But still are also the prizes for everyone else involved in the Assetto Corsa environment during the season number 20 that in a month time will come to an end. So also there is that to be accounted for. The standings, I don't think they will be updated, but at the very least I think the results are updated. So Edoardo Cavalli wins once again in front of Jake Black and Really Gallardo. Kirillov 4th, Barale 5th, Okubo only 6th, unfortunately, because of the drive-thru that he received. And if you can see the gap, look at that, 21 seconds. A drive-thru is 21 seconds. Maybe more, even. So, definitely, I think we could have seen something going on for the win, but if there was a round in which he had to take a drive-thru, this one was definitely the incorrect one, because I think a win was possible for Okubo, or at the very least a challenge for Cavalli was there, and unfortunately Okubo just 6th in front of Galaxy, Villa, Anderson and Frankie, completing your top 10 with Topka, Aldosari, O'Reilly. That was a bit too quick. O'Reilly, then Zalewski and Casero. With the British driver that really put a show when there was the battle for position ongoing with Jesse Albert, who unfortunately has been lapped twice. John Machas, then Suarez, 10, Müller, Sasanovic, Jan Müller, Ralph Alexander with then Kuto, then Duker and Kosterin completing the field as Jesse Albert was last place, and really was 12th, wasn't he? I think I may have missed the overtake there. I distinctly remember Aldosari behind. Probably I also commented on the overtake, I just can't remember. My memory is not really that strong, unfortunately. The standings, please let me see the updated ones. I think they are, for once. Okay, no, never mind, they are not updated, unfortunately. They are still the ones from last week. As always, I try to update as many times as possible. Yeah, definitely it doesn't seem to update properly, because this was a situation prior to this race. Matter of fact, if I go into the standings, yes, week number 10 still hasn't been counted, and it always takes a while. Realistically, the standings will be updated next time around, maybe? Maybe not. I can see that the results are in, but not the standings as always. So I'll just do it manually. Should be... Okay. Let's just do something different for once. It should be about 7,000 points for Cavalli, with Jake Black gaining under 720, putting him to 6,006. No, I think it is 6,600 and something, because I can see if it is a 6 or an 8 from here. Gallardo then remains in third. Okubo effectively loses some ground to Galaxy, but no, actually gains some ground to Galaxy. 20 points gained for Okubo to Galaxy. But Okubo lost some points to Barale and Kirillov, but both of them are behind him in the standings by a good chunk. So realistically, the only thing that changes, I think, it is Villa and Barale switching places, with Villa that came home with 525 points and Barale with 590. So actually, no, it doesn't change, not even there. The top 10 should remain the same, I think, because Anderson is very far to Krylov. So definitely it should remain the same situation in the standings. In any case, tomorrow it is Assetto Corsa Competizione. I'll be on the booth for both the Porsche Cup and the Case Kingdom D Pro Series. So be sure to be here from 7 o'clock onwards. But for me, Chris Romano, this was all. This was Sonoma with the MX5s. It was certainly a great show to be seen. Thank you so much to have followed the race. Stay safe. Have a good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.